If a man was to go for it, it would just be, right, missus, this is what I think is going to get a bread and butter in, I'm going to go for that. But if it was a woman going up for a senior VP job, you'd immediately start trying to think, right, I've got kids, I've got the house, I've got the school. And obviously, there's a lot of things that we need to consider.
Hi, welcome to Changing Suits. My name's Bal.
And my name's Taj.
So a few weeks ago, we had the councillor on talking about racism, and we really wanted to bring to light and highlight the fact that politicians serve a purpose of serving the community. But the amount of flack they got for him, I think me and Taj were shocked from the last podcast. So we wanted to add another perspective to this. And that is, how is it being female in politics? So today we've got Adorabelle, who is the councillor for Central Swindon. And she will be explaining, firstly, why she joined politics and how she's found it. So Adorabelle, could you give us a bit of an introduction to yourself, please?
Hi Taj, hi Bal, and hello to their lovely listeners. It's such a great opportunity to meet you today, albeit virtually. But I think we've somehow managed to make this our norm and reality after COVID, haven't we? So it's great to see, firstly, the two of you leading something like this.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate that.
it absolutely becomes such a wealth of information for people, like you've rightly said, to understand our communities better, understand how we integrate, what we do for fun, but what we also try to raise an awareness when it comes to stigma, subconscious bias. And it's just great to see this platform that you cover all of this. So well done to the two of you.
We
Thank
appreciate
you so
that.
much.
Getting a little
Thank
thank
you.
you is always a nice pat on the back for us.
Absolutely. And as women, I think leading this, it's really great to see that. So my name is Councillor Adorabelle Shaikh. I am the existing councillor for the Labour Party and also the shadow cabinet member for communities and culture. And my ward represents Central Swindon. So just to give you a background about myself, I am a mum of two as well. I also have a full-time job as a implementation manager for Zurich Corporate Risk, where I've been there now for about 16 years this year.
So are you telling us you're a
Congratulations.
busy
Wow.
lady, whether it's professionally or personally? You're
I
running around like crazy.
I do not have it all. Some days you will find me with a scrunchie, with my hair up, with my glasses on, with my pajamas, and just wiping down the fridge. So I do have days like that as well.
The fact that you are so busy, you've got kids, you've got a nice job. What got you into politics?
I think that's a very, very good question. The reason I went or came into politics really was because I did not see that representation. I did not see representation of the BAME community. And I think more than that, there was no female representation, um, you know, um, be it on a local level or even within communities, engaging with each other, getting to know each other. It was almost like we were segregated between ourselves and not finding that golden thread. And I love referring to something known as the golden thread, because it could be anything emotive. It doesn't need to be tangible. I mean, you and I share the same blood. We can easily sit down and we'll be surprised, I think, what the common thread is. And that's just being human, you know. And I wasn't able to find that, I think, and I wasn't able to see that and sense that. So I think when my husband first took the opportunity to join politics, it's going back 12 years now, so more than a decade, um, it was the sense of not seeing that, I think, that kind of said, hang on a minute, I'd like to start that, and who knows where it leads. And I mean, 12 years down the line now,
You're still there. That's saying
I'm
something.
still hanging on.
So when you initially started, did you sit down as a family and decide, right, I'm going to go for this? Or is it, let me just write my name down and
No.
surprise everyone?
Yeah, no, it doesn't work like that. I think definitely family is my strength, and I'm quite blessed to have all of my extended family, like we normally do within South Asian homes, around us. They helped raise my children, you know, even helping me when I decided to go back to work full time. They were there. But I think when it got to a point, I mean, I come from Goa originally, so I was born in Goa, but this is home. But that's also home. But for my children, I think when they were born, I think that's when the ball started rolling for me, or the clock almost started thinking, going, how are we leading to inspire? What am I doing to, you know, say to my kids that yes, this is your home now, you know, but what can you do to aspire to be something else? But it was a family sort of, we did sit down as a family, and obviously there's a lot of things that we need to consider as a woman. I think that automatically comes to your mind, as opposed to a man making that decision, without being sexist in any way. But those are the decisions women today, even in high paid jobs, have to consider.
It is interesting you say that, because we always think, as females we can do everything that men can do, and we can,
Yep.
but there is added pressure of, yes, the kids. And I
Yeah.
completely agree with you. I mean, if it was all equality, all the everything was perfect, then the men would have to sit and think about it just as much as the women. But in all truth, and I've been in exactly the same position, you do need to make certain decisions.
I don't think it just comes, I don't even think you do. I think you do it subconsciously. That's the difference. I was listening to a podcast, funnily, I think it was last week, and there was this person who was talking about there's this really high flying job. If a man was to go for it, it would just be right, missus. This is what I think is going to get a bread and butter in. I'm going to go for that.
Yeah.
But if it was a woman going up for a senior VP job, you'd immediately start trying to think, right, I've got kids, I've got the house, I've got the school, I've got the extracurricular activities. And you would almost reconsider that opportunity straight away. But I think it's just how we're built, maybe, and the extra pressure of being in such a close knit community that really dictates how we think, how we behave, what we want, um, without us even doing it ourselves.
So you said your husband looked into it 12 years ago. Did he become a counsellor in that term and then you came in after, or did you both become counsellors at the same time?
So it's a long journey, and I think people don't realize it's taken us 12 years to be in a sort of a position where we feel we have contributed in some way. I think people see um, the end goal without realizing all of the hurdles you've had to pass, all
The
of the
journey.
sacrifices you've had to make, the
Yeah.
blood, sweat, and tears, you know. And so when he decided to become a counselor, it was few years before. So he's always loved, um, you know, giving his time to others and socializing to make a difference, not just socializing to network, but to try and bring about the change. He's always been like that. And I've known him for about 25 years now. Um, but the reason I think the opportunity again for him came up was where is the representation?
Yeah.
I can't see anything. And I think as a community, because the Goan community, I think, is one of the highest local BAME communities in Southwest, particularly in Swindon. And at that time, I think there was a lot of feedback, or um, sort of maybe not so much of an equal opportunity for when the Goans first came and started working at jobs. And I think he saw that, and I think he wanted to do something about that. So it all started with, helping others, being that sort of activist, being that sort of representation when it came to problems, and going and speaking to people to try and resolve them.
The nice thing as a counsellor is that is why 95, nearly 99% of people go into becoming
Becoming a
counsellors,
counsellor, absolutely.
because of that activism. And then unfortunately, we'll discuss this later on. Politics then gets involved, and whether what happens there. However, that's a nice thing. I think that's something that's always lost on people you might represent, or people that are,
Mm,
politically motivated. It's lost
mm,
as
mm,
to
mm.
the reason you wanted to make a positive
What's been
change.
your driver?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's been our driver, to be honest with you. It does get hard nowadays. I think you forget what fulfills you.
Mm.
And I think people who understand their purpose will always remember what their driver is.
Yeah.
and that is the activism, and that is the help, the helpfulness, the helping, and making the time for others. So that was what motivated him. And then a year on that, obviously I'd seen the lifestyle of doing what he did. I was already helping with the women in the communities, because they felt more comfortable coming to me,
Yeah.
and the men would feel comfortable going to Imtiaz. So that's again how it, sort of, I started asking myself questions. Hang on a minute, I can help them, but on a platform where I can actually do more
Yeah.
using my role as a counsellor.
And this is why it's so important that we do have representation, whether it's the color of our skin, whether it's our gender, whatever the thing is, because like you've just said, females were more comfortable coming to you. And no matter how much we try to educate and raise awareness, if you've been in that situation, it makes it a lot easier to understand the issues.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So you said that the females were happy, comfortable to come to you. So was it a positive response that you got when you got elected in?
It was. I think even now, I just wrapped up a call actually while I was trying to finish dinner off, and there was
the,
this
the joy of being a counsellor.
multitasking never ends. I was trying to help someone fill up a online form, and they were struggling because they weren't able to access the information online. And she just kind of said, "Can I just have some time of yours over the weekend just to fill up the passport form? I need it for my daughter." So yeah, we just booked it in for next Thursday because she's fine to wait until then. But it's the I think it's the response of, "Oh, I'm so glad you're here now, and I can see you're doing so much, and you're so passionate about doing it, Adorabelle." So I think it's almost become now, compared to a ward resident counsellor triage, it's almost become very relaxed, more informal, because we've got to know each other over the years. So they really feel free, and they feel safe. I think and feeling that safe, that safeness, or making someone your safe space, is so important. Because what I've learned, I think, through COVID as well, has been feeling like that when it was the isolating times, when people weren't doing really well with their mental health, and we were talking to each other in a box like we're doing now. So I think I love doing what I do, but it's for all the right reasons.
Good. That's
Yeah.
really nice, and you've got a smile on your face, so we can vouch for that, even though this is only going audio, which is nice.
Through your journey, have you had any negative from anyone while you've been a counsellor, or has it been very positive in everything that you've
Oh, she's
gone
in
through?
politics. There must have been something
I
interesting.
know there was. I'm digging
There's
here, Belle. I'm
always there's
digging.
always something fishy going on, isn't there, in lifestyle of politics? It is, anything you do is never going to be easy, and I always tell my children this: be whether you're age 5 or you're 55, you will always have one person that sticks out to make that journey even more harder.
Oh, I
But
feel like you've got
Um,
someone in mind.
I was going to say, yeah, it looks like you have that one person. Who are they? Give us their name. No, joking.
but isn't it true, ladies? And that one person can be social stigma, that one person can be extra pressure, like we've already discussed, or that one person could be, managing or trying to find um, time for yourself, not to put so much pressure on yourself. So I think for me, as a woman in politics, as a younger woman with young children in politics today, I think it takes a very strong man to be able to partner with you.
Yeah.
And it takes a very confident man to let you be what you are.
Yep.
And
I second that. I think that's a really
Completely
important point.
agree. Yep.
Yeah.
yeah, and when other men don't understand that, the subconscious bias kicks in. And I've seen that, and I've felt it.
On that point, because obviously our audience tends to be more South Asians, talking about South Asians. Have you found that within the South Asian community where perhaps your husband might have felt that pressure?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you think it's more within this community, or pretty much it's like that with all communities? What do you think?
I think it depends on the age or the age groups of people.
Yeah.
Um, I think where we are so what's the word I'm looking for? Where we've diversified globally as a sub community now. I think the generation of the 80s who have grown up now, I think a family does not necessarily have to, family definitions have changed, haven't they?
Yep.
And so have perspectives along with that. Um, I It wouldn't be fair to only again stigmatize our community,
Yeah.
but I think the acceptance of a strong woman can do equally the same as a strong man in the same job um, is more wider. What is what I've seen. But what I would say is the other second obstacle I found is I think sometimes people tend to engage in local politics from maybe our ancestral lands and bring it into a country where it is absolutely a no-no. And they think they can do it because it's free reign back, in Asia, and they would like to model it here. And that's quite hard for them to understand that it doesn't work like that. You have to stand in the queue to be able to get to where you want to be. You've got to work your way up to be able to get to where you want to go. So I think in terms of challenges, those have been my only two specific ones.
So would you say there's politics, just the politics that you're in, and then there's politics within the community? Because
Oh, yes.
the yes, and
Oh,
is that
yes.
tough? Would you say?
Um, I don't like calling anything tough because
Oh, I
everything
like
tough,
that.
Oh,
everything.
she's badass.
There's always going to be a challenge. There's always going to be a challenge. Like I've said, there will always be that one person trying to stop you from where you have to get to be. But I think destiny is already, laid out for all of us, and I'm a
So,
firm believer in that.
so where's this person trying to stop you from where you want to be?
No, I wouldn't say it's a person. I would say is as an example of what I'm trying to explain to you.
I love
Really,
how
is there's
Taj is trying to get there.
there's always going to be a challenge,
Not gonna let
ladies.
go.
And we know
Love
that
it.
there's always going to be a challenge. And I think as women, we feel that more than men, don't we? In every job, in everything that we do, in people that we meet, there's always going to be that one challenge, which was what I was trying to explain as a
Yeah,
person in layman's terms. But
yeah.
How do you find the community as a whole? And I'll tell you why I asked this question.
mm,
I found when I got into politics, firstly, it opens loads of doors, which is fantastic. You get the
yes,
opportunity to do so much. And I think that's one thing when you go into politics, you don't realize as to
really,
how great
very
it
true,
is.
very true.
But I actually had a really positive experience from the South Asian community. I was supported by most of the South Asian community. There's always, I agree with you, there's always going to be people that are a thorn in your backside. So you try to do something about that. But there is generally a positive vibe. I found that. How did you find the South Asian community when you were first elected and are
Ah,
still
it was
elected?
amazing. It was
Yeah, good.
absolutely amazing. I mean, it hasn't changed, Bal, don't get me wrong. It absolutely hasn't changed. I think people calling up and saying, thank you, Adorabelle, because of this. I mean, some of the people when I door knock, because I regularly door knock, I love to talk to my residents because it's nice for them to get that interaction, especially after 3 years of not seeing each other.
Yeah, of
And
course.
you may have grown a beard or I don't know, facial
I hope
hair.
not.
And yeah. for for a man, or I don't know.
Anyway, yes.
Anyway, yes. But it's so nice to hear people go, Doorbell, you helped me on that. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
And it really just gives you the right feels, and
good.
reminds you, yes, this is why I do what I do. And I think
It does make such a big difference. I completely agree. When you hear that, thank you, oh, this is what you did, it is a bit like, okay, that's great. And if there is, and I've had it where there's been mistakes made, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe,
yeah,
X, Y, Z.
yeah,
But it makes such a difference and it
it
does give you that
does.
drive to do more, right?
It does, absolutely does. I mean, everyone who I've spoken to now will just, as I said, it's become so informal now where we've got to know each other over email or phone. We'll talk about each other's children, how's your pet doing, or, how's your day been? It's things like that. But um, I still remember winning in 2019, and it was such an amazing thing to do. And I thought, okay, so this is going to give me the platform now to really, really make a change, really encourage women to come out more, encourage the youth to step up, make a difference, seize the day, and this is your opportunity. And I think that fire sometimes tends to burn out when you're tired, and you'd almost have to rejuvenate that back again. But I hope that I have rubbed off a little bit um, to these people who I'm trying to encourage.
How did you feel when you first went into your first council meeting? Because that's, I think, the most daunting I
It
found. But
is. It is.
but your first council meeting, what was your first thought? Was it, oh my God, there's no diversity in this place, we need to make a change right now, which is why I'm here? Or was it actually, it's not a bad place, there's a change, a positive change that is already coming?
The first thing I thought was, gosh, this room is really large. Because it is huge, isn't it? I mean, if you've ever been in the main chamber in Swindon Borough Council, it is absolutely huge. And it's trying to, find your way through the systems and get yourself set up on the iPad with the login and
Oh, the
remember where
joy.
the joys, the absolute IT joys, which I do not have any of, by the way. And Taj will know because I was trying to find my speaker and I couldn't find it. But no, I do remember it because I still have my photo on my ID badge, and I look at it now and I look, oh, so young.
So young, no stress.
And innocent.
No stress at all. Didn't know what she was getting herself into. but looking back, I think I've evolved as a person. Absolutely, yes. It makes you stronger, tougher, wiser, more capable of believing in yourself, for sure. And if there's any advice I would give a young South Asian lady in particular, because I want more women out there, is there is nothing to lose. There is absolutely nothing to lose. And if you're ever in doubt with anything you want to set your eyes on, just ask yourself, what is the worst that could happen? And if it's nothing, then just absolutely go for it.
And how was it in the council chambers? Do you feel, as a woman, a South Asian background, that you had to be more thicker skinned, or was it the same as anyone else in the chambers?
The chamber is a very respectful place. Um, you do have your, anecdotal comments and quotes, but I think it's all tongue in cheek. I have never been made to feel like I didn't belong, be it by my own party members or the opposition. The officers to the leader of the council have always maintained the dignity and respect of the chamber, and so has the mayor. So I've never ever been made to feel different to anybody else next to me.
And if this isn't a marketing campaign for you ladies to get out there, I don't know what is. You're saying all the right things. Okay, I just want to change tact slightly. So you've said yourself, you are young, you've got young children. Can I ask how old your children are, firstly?
Of course, my oldest will be 12 in March, and my youngest will be 9. So they're 3 years apart. Yeah.
And did you have, were you elected before or after you had the kids?
After I'd had them. So my youngest was, so 2019 should have been 4. So 4.5 years, nearly 5 years now. Yeah.
And how did you find that phrase work-life balance? Did you have it in as being counsellor?
Is that a word?
Well, yeah. Well, I was looking back at some of our podcasts. Actually, if you look at the title, I won't repeat it here because it's not that appropriate. But yeah, it is. It's interesting. How did you find it? Because they were quite young when you got elected at the start, and it's a learning curve, councillors. So
they were. I was trying to think back now because I think at that time, in that point of my life, I was part-timing at Zurich. I didn't, so you set aside your your professional aspirations a little bit because you want to, be there for your children, absolutely, see them grow up, and I think I'm quite organized as a person anyway, which does help. But the work-life balance with the children, I think you just learn as it comes along, and that's what I've done. I think my dad is a perfect example of sort of, being there to nudge me or remind me of what I was capable of. And I think father-daughter relationships are always special, aren't they? And
100% agree. We had exactly
dad,
the same thing. Yep.
your dad has your back no matter what. I remember as well when there'd be times when we're like, "Oh, Dad, can you just, help me out?" He'd be like, "Don't
Was
worry."
he your PA as well then? Because mine
Sorry,
was. Was he your
sorry.
PA?
Oh, he was the best dad.
They really are the best, aren't they?
Yeah, he would tell me, "I've got dinner sorted out. Don't worry about anything. The kids can be with me. You can go to your meeting." But when I'd come back, he'd be, "Oh, how was your canvas? What did you do?" And he was almost like my slash therapist. But I sadly lost my dad 2 years ago.
Sorry
He
to hear about that.
It was very hard. No, thank you. It was really, really hard because if if there was one way to describe me, I think would be a female version of my father. And I think some of the aspirations I have today is because of him. So yeah, it's just been quite a ride thinking about that now. I don't find myself thinking about those initial days only because it comes so fast, and the years roll by and the children grow up, and I'll
Life's
have
busy.
life
Yeah.
is busy, and I will have a teenager in a year. So God
So
help me with that.
we'll come back in a year and you can tell us about your work-life balance again.
Maybe then.
So, in the South Asian community, we're so backwards in certain things where we don't like to support females, but yet the South Asian community do support females going into politics. Why do you think that is?
I haven't really thought about it now that you've said it actually, and I wonder what the reasons are. I don't I don't know whether it's because maybe those segments of where they feel there is no support again is lacking representation.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? If there's, I don't know, support for the women to be the main breadwinner and the husband to swap roles, how many do we see? How many? What representation do we see of that in our community?
Not enough.
Not
Not,
enough.
I can't even think, to be honest.
And that's what I mean. There, I think once the idea gets along that we don't put so much pressure on ourselves, firstly, especially because we're such a close knit community, aren't we? Um, I think that automatically takes off the pressure of social issues or social stigmas or what's my auntie or second auntie or third auntie going to think of something. As irrelevant as that may sound, it's automatically in our heads. So I think it's representation of situations as well that needs to be encouraged and not just what you see directly in front of you. I think it grows from an idea into something bigger.
I think it's interesting that you brought up how your dad was so supportive. And
Mm.
like I said, we had exactly the same thing. My dad was the PA. He'd go out sometimes and do the leaflet drop and stuff if I was at work. And it's fantastic. Yeah, you've got thumbs up. So exactly the same thing. And I think this is really important to highlight the positive things in the community as well, because when we say
Absolutely.
South Asian, everyone's like, oh yeah, girls are put down, the inequality,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
not like that. If
It's not like
anything,
that.
in practicality, you've said exactly the same thing and the same experience that I had, that we have now been put on a pedestal and saying, come on, follow us as well. And do you think it's becoming easier for females from our community to get into those roles?
Absolutely. I mean, it definitely has changed in what 3 decades, I would say safely at least. Um, there's a lot more openness to welcoming equality now than there was 3 decades ago. And I think it is through platforms like what you're doing. It is through platforms of other communities that are also trying to expand, open, educate, have those resources to have these conversations, open and honest conversations about things that, people sometimes think is too taboo to even talk about or even let alone air on a podcast.
Yeah.
But I think we're in a much I think we have an idea of where we want to go, And I think we have all the steps in place. And I think we just need to really find the right people to surround us to be able to get there. I think that's all it is.
Yesterday, I was reading on the news that Jacinda Ardern decided to step down. Now, I have been a big fan of hers for years. I think, especially
You
during
know
the
how I
pandemic.
found out, Belle?
Go on.
My 11-year-old boy told me, he went, Mama, you know the lady you really love? And I
Oh,
went,
yeah.
which one? And he went,
Yeah,
the lady from New Zealand. And I went, oh, first I thought, oh no, what's happened? She got COVID. Has
yeah.
she had to
Yeah.
isolate? And he went, no, she's not going to be there anymore, Mum. And I went, oh no.
Do you know what? I was slightly upset because I've been
Mm.
a big fan, especially after during the pandemic. I mean, how well did she handle that? Like,
Absolutely.
right now,
Yeah, yeah,
that's a lady. But I saw her
yeah.
in an interview, and I noticed that she was. I think she breastfed within the chambers as
She
well.
did.
Yeah,
She
she did.
did.
Yeah.
She
She
did.
brought her
Yep, yep,
children, her child
yep.
in, and I saw her in an interview once, and she was not apologetic for having a child. In if anything, she was like, "Yeah, I've got a child. I am emotional about certain things that are going on, and X, Y, Z." And I just found it really refreshing, that interview, because it's very different. Because as we know, in big companies, women have to, the RCOs do have to show a different side, and unfortunately, sometimes it's because they feel like they need to imitate what a man, how a
Mm,
man would act in that role,
mm,
and
mm,
sometimes that's really
mm,
depressing. Whereas I
mm.
didn't find that with this. So I was so upset yesterday, and I thought
I
I'd better hear
know.
that today.
Yeah, I
But
can't believe that either.
it's a tough one, isn't it? I
It is.
just, I
I think
big credit to her.
she champions a lot of what we need to see in
Yeah.
women now. So
Completely.
I was quite disappointed yesterday when I found out that she decided that. But there are always reasons, I think, to strong women deciding when they need to take a step back. But that does not mean that she cannot put her leg forward again.
But again, it's the strength in saying it, because backing down like she did, and she
Yeah,
was quite emotional. She doesn't hide her emotion, which I love as well.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I thought I'd air that today. I was like, this is
yeah,
the perfect time.
yeah. I agree. I agree. Absolutely agree.
So
So
if she's listening,
If
come
she's
on.
listening, coming back.
Sorry, go on, Chad.
so when we talk to youngsters, we talk about their career and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And the typical ones are become an accountant, become
Yeah,
this, become that. But we
yeah.
never say or encourage to become a politician.
Mm.
Do you think this is changing, or we need to change? What is your opinion on this?
Um, I think you're right. I think there's always, something like my daughter's going to be a doctor when she grows up, or, my son's a pilot, and it's great. I mean, don't get me wrong, we need airplanes to fly, and we need the engineers out there, and we need the people in the, being a doctors and looking after us. They're absolutely key roles. But I think there's so much more that can be done. Being a counsellor, being a politician. But what I'd say to people is, it's great you want to be a counsellor, it's great you want to get into politics, but there's a difference between being a good counsellor and just being a counsellor. There's a difference between being a politician and a good politician. And again, if I reflect back on my journey, it's understanding your purpose and really following that through. If I give you an example of my children, like I'll say to them, Zohaib, that's his name, Zohaib. I go, Zohaib, I think you've made a point really well. You could be, Swindon's mayor in like 30 years. Have you considered that? And he looks at me and he goes, not today, Mama.
Not again.
Not again.
Here she goes.
There she goes again. But it's opening their minds, isn't it? And their minds are like sponges at that age when they're, they're preschoolers to like secondary school. And even my young one now, like when we go on holiday away, she'd say to me, do you want to report that fly tipping, Mum? No, we're in, darling, we're in Devon. It's not even my council. So we can find out.
And then you get on the website and
And
start
then you
reporting
get on the
But that's
Do you know what I
amazing.
mean?
That's
It's
amazing that she's picked that up.
She's picked that up because that's all they've seen us do, which I'm hoping doesn't, put them down.
I was just
But
about to say, because then you turn the other way where it's like, yeah, you're moaning about everything. We're on holiday. Stop complaining.
yeah, but I mean, I would love for children to think. I mean, you have school counselors in school nowadays, don't you?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's almost when my children have,
Did
they'll
you
come
force
up.
the kids in there? Actually, that's a good point.
None of my
Start
children
them
are school
young.
counselors. Can
I
I
was
just
so
clear that?
disappointed. I was so disappointed when my son didn't want to do it. I was like, "What do you mean you don't?" He
Yeah,
goes, "Yeah."
what do you mean?
I literally had that conversation. He goes, "You have to take those meetings are during break times. I want to play
I don't
football."
want to lose that, Mum.
I'm like,
Yes.
what?
Yes.
I must admit, I did talk my daughter around to it, and she is on there.
Oh,
Oh, is
I
she?
have. I have. I've said that
I
to
had
Zohaib.
to.
I'm like, Zohaib, come on, mate. You need to live it, live up to. And he goes, no, Mama. It's just I've got to listen to people talk throughout my lunch hour, and I just want to go and play.
Pushy mums, I say, we're all there.
We've all done that at some point. But I'm glad we talk about that now to our children, and I think my children as well see that as a section to actually explore. And I think to have that understanding of that thing. So subconsciously, without them realizing, they're already spokespersons, nominated spokespersons within their peer groups. If ever there's a problem, it's always Kashfia or Zohaib out there speaking on their behalves or stopping an argument. So without them even realizing, they're already in that mindset. So if children of today want to be leaders of tomorrow, I mean, the world would be such a better place to be in, wouldn't it? Our communities would be, oh my God, I would love that. So much more closer, so much more kinder to each other. We talk more, fight less, I think, at least in an ideal world.
I was going to say, that is ideal, isn't
we just we just
it?
we just be listening to each other as opposed to, but that's not politics, is it?
No, it's not. I think
That would be
I'm
too
like,
easy.
which rooms are you sitting in,
I don't know.
Adorabelle?
This is
We
this is
know
my
what it's
this
like
is
from real
this
life.
is my vision, but this is my vision for my children. Hopefully, someday. You never know.
And they sit quietly at dinner and eat all their dinner on
Never
time.
happens. Never happens.
Quick question. I know we touched on this a
Yeah.
bit earlier. How does your husband feel with the fact that you are? And again, did you say you're in the shadow cabinet as well? So obviously
Yes.
a big step up, and that
Yeah.
is a lot of responsibility in itself.
Yeah.
How has he taken to the fact that you are in that position and you're not always at home to, I know this is a really sexist thing to say, and it is. Sometimes he has to make the dinner, and that's just in my household that happens. So, and my husband was very happy to do that, and it was a great thing for him to learn as well. It's skills. How has
Yes.
he taken to it? Because
Oh,
South Asian
he's
community,
yeah.
unfortunately, we're still very backwards in that, and I don't know how it is in your household.
I'm quite blessed.
Good,
I am very, very lucky. I've known Imtia since I was 17, so we've been together a long time now. We got married in the UK, and I think everything our journey through our teens, 20s, and 30s, and as we close that off into 40s, has always been of self-respect.
good.
So if I was actually just finishing a bit of the dinner, and I was catching up on emails, and he came home and he went, right, so I've got to do that bit then, don't I? And I went, yep, that's your bit, I've done my bit. But it's being kind to each other, and
That's the only way
understanding.
you'll get there, though.
That
That's the thing.
is, that is. So even when the opportunity to join the shadow cabinet did come about, I mean, my dad and him are just like fanfare sort of,
He's
situation.
like, "Yay, she's gonna
Yeah,
get it!
yay, she's
You're in."
got in. We're so proud of her, and I
Do they
mean,
introduce you like that? This is our shadow cabinet.
no, they just go, this is Shakey's wife, because he calls himself Shaky because our surname's Sheikh, and he goes, this is Shakey's wife, this is my wife, and I love her, and blah blah blah. And he's cheese fest sometimes, but
I was like, how
I
romantic.
yeah, no, I shy away. He'll call me boring for that, but no, he is an amazing partner. There is nothing more, I think. And he will openly say as well, if he's on a call and he gets a call, and if it's work, and he'll talk through them while he's cooking dinner, and he'll say, I'm cooking dinner for my family. Or if we're having a meal as a family, he'll say, this is my family time. And we have that. Don't get me wrong. There are days, weeks, and sometimes months where it is very back to back. I make it sound easy because I hate putting women off, but it can be very, very full on.
Yeah, it's tough.
You know, it is tough, and you have to be on the ball all the time, sometimes juggling a lot of things that include children and your full-time job. But I think where we yin and yang against each other so well, we know and we support each other so well, not just as a family, but also in community work. You know, where we say, for example, help communities from all BAME perspective. We get invited very often to the temple, to the Sikh community centre as well, which we have before. Um, and it's again that yin and yanging between the both of us to be able to support the work that we do. And at the end of the day, we're still individual people, and we don't forget that. You know, he's got aspirations of where he'd like to be, and I absolutely honour them. And I have aspirations of where I want to be professionally, personally, and politically. Who knows where that might go? And he honors them, and I think that's the best way that makes things work for us, at least.
Of course. As we come to the end of this podcast, and we really do appreciate hearing it, and I love how positive you've made this, because I don't think we've touched on the negative enough. To be fair, I was ready for a good moan today, but it's fine. What advice would you give a young South Asian lady that is perhaps thinking about it, but she's not sure? What would you advise her to get into politics?
I'd absolutely say know where your heart is. And the advice I was given by a very senior Labour peer, very, very senior Labour peer, and I don't want to take his name, was people will smell you out the minute they know your intentions are not right. And it's true, isn't it? You can only cover up until a certain time. So if you're a young lady who's passionate about doing something, it could even be about fixing a pothole behind your house. That's still classed as being passionate about doing something. Know your intentions, remember your intentions, and you'll find your purpose eventually. But if it is politics you're thinking of going in, I will not lie and say it's going to be easy. It will be hard, but you will rise up above that, because we are made like that. And there is nothing that we cannot do, because we have the community that backs us. So I think the community is our strength. It's always been our strength. I just don't think sometimes it comes up or rises to that. But absolutely, yeah, give it your best. And I'm sure whoever that young lady is out there, in any sort of environment, I think will do really, really well.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time
You're
today.
very welcome.
It's been eye-opening for, I'm sure, the listeners. And you take me back to the good old days, and I'm like, maybe I should get involved again. So you've already done that.
I think you should. You should.
We're about to take over the world with changing suits, so I don't know if I'll have the time. Lovely.
Thank you very much. Thanks, guys. Take care. Bye.
That's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, changing_suits, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.